And we are back here live from the AWS Sydney Summit. It's quite a happy time, but also a sad time, because this is actually our final session of the day, but we have saved the best till last, I'm sure. We just had an awesome Women in IT session before this, and we do have Maria Sakova here, one of the prominent women in IT, that's going to take us through a particular topic around gaining visibility and insight into your distributed applications with AWS X-Ray. And yeah, absolutely. And to help us guide us through, of course, Jared's going to be here as well.
Hi again. Last session. Still got the voice.
Still got the voice.
It's going.
We'll see about 12 o'clock tonight how your voice is going as well, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, Maria, you had your lightning talk earlier over at the Dev Central. Can you maybe give the audience a little bit of a background about what the talk was about? And I see here that the service specifically was around AWS X-Ray. Now, I'm familiar with X-rays because I played rugby, so I've broken hands and legs and everything else, but that's not quite what this actually is, AWS X-Ray, is it?
No, it's more about visibility, having visibility into your applications. And it starts with us receiving feedback. Back in 2013, we started receiving feedback from our customers that was saying that it was really difficult for them to understand what was going on inside the mesh of different services and components of their distributed app. And the X-Ray service is designed to help customers to have that visibility.
Right.
Yeah.
So developers can really focus on the development of the code and what they want to achieve, rather than all that debugging and trying to look through many lines of code, identify bottlenecks. This all does it for them.
Yeah, exactly right. Because if you think about how traditionally debugging is done, or how traditionally, back in the days we used to debug code, it was a single machine and all the logs were going in a single location. Now with the distributed apps, you have tens, sometimes hundreds of individual components sending logs, potentially in varying formats, to multiple places. So how do you debug when something is going wrong?
Absolutely. With the advent of things like microservices and SOA architecture, it makes it very complex. So having tools like this for your diagnostics and troubleshooting helps.
Yeah, so how exactly does X-Ray help developers in this case? I think there's tracing that's occurring throughout the application. How does all of that work?
Absolutely. So what's happening is each of your application components sends information into X-Ray service. And X-Ray service analyzes it, stitches it together into the traces using trace ID provided in the collected information to generate what we call a service map. And service map helps you visualize architecture of your application, as well as see its health. So you can quickly and easily identify where potential problems are happening and drill further in to investigate what is actually causing the problem.
Okay.
Sounds great.
And it sounds quite straightforward. I'm sure there's a lot of things happening under the hood that removes that undifferentiated lifting from developers. And you mentioned things like filtering. Can you tell me how things like filtering works, and what do customers' activities use it for?
Yeah, absolutely. So. How often does it happen that a developer has got somebody coming up to him and saying, or her, saying, hey, we're having some issues. Our API is occasionally failing. Can you tell me what's happening? Is it impacting anyone? And if it's impacting anyone, do we need to drop everything we're currently doing and fix the problem right now?
Yeah.
So filtering, because information collected contains system-defined and user-defined data, you can quickly and easily search and filter the requests, let's say coming from your front end through your app, that ended up in a fault.
Right.
And then if you group them, let's say by user, you see if it's impacting any of your users, how many users are impacted, and what that impact is. So that's when you can make that decision if it's urgent, needs to be fixed right now, or just edit it to the next 2-week sprint.
So filtering is one aspect that you've got available to you here, though. But is there a way that, say for instance, I want to identify something that's taking longer than expected to run? Is there an easy way where you can view that or visualize that information to pinpoint exactly what's going wrong?
Filtering is the answer to that.
Filtering, yeah.
Filtering, you can filter based on the error code. You can filter based on duration. You can say return all the traces that, or all the calls that taken longer than 10%, all the calls that resulted in an error, all the calls that made to the database and didn't come back in 2 milliseconds or what have you, whatever your SLAs are.
So you've got a filter mechanism as well based on a time period, a set time period.
Absolutely. Yeah, because quite often what happens happens if you have retrial built into your application, which we all do. Potentially, you might be talking to a third-party API, and that API sometimes fails, but your retry application, your retry logic handles that. So the user experience is impacted, but the error code is not there for you to troubleshoot, so it ended up eventually in a success. So for you, that's the method to identify those that are late or like have got a larger latency, but still being successful.
So looking at the slide that should be showing hopefully right now, we can actually see that waterfall there with you've got some requests going through, and then bang, you see the red exclamation mark where you've had a failure, and then you see it retrying with that waterfall, bang, you've got another failure. Retry,
right.
bang.
Yeah. On the slide right now, you can see that we're making multiple attempts to read from the, in this case, orders DynamoDB table, and each one ends up in an error. Error is we don't have enough provision throughput capacity. In our case, it's read throughput capacity we're trying to read. So within minutes, you can make a decision about what are you going to do. You're going to go back and just reconfigure your DynamoDB table so you do have enough provision capacity.
Another thing I noticed actually with this retry mechanism, we can actually see exponential backoff actually being used here, and this is another, I would imagine this is another way where having a service like X-Ray to pinpoint these issues, you can actually verify that your exponential backoff is working and what impact that exponential backup is potentially having on that retry mechanism.
Yeah. You know, Jared, sorry to interrupt you. You know, Jared, we actually have customers that apart from using this for debugging, they actually use it when they do their code reviews. So when the team gets together to review the code, they not only have a code, but also visualization of what that code does, and you know, does it meet their expectation? Does it actually do what everyone thinks it should be doing? Right.
Actually, you did read my mind, because I was going to talk about the visualization. I mean, you can see that it's quite honest up front there in terms of where those bottlenecks and issues are in that process. And it sort of leads into the question that we've got from a Linda Baroque. Linda asks, how easy is it to integrate X-Ray with Maya?
We do have current of components that developers could use. One of them is XRay SDK. SDK is currently available in 6 languages, so that's Java, Go, Python, Ruby, .NET, and Node.js. All of them are open sourced and available on GitHub. So the actual SDK allows you to trace the call, and there is a second component, which is a daemon, which collects the data and send asynchronously to the service, because you don't want your application to be relying on X-Ray or any other service. You want it to be loosely coupled. Right, so it's just a matter of whatever programming language you're actually using the relevant SDK, and we do all the behind-the-scenes heavy lifting for you. Absolutely. And if you're using Lambda, it's already pre-installed. Right. So it only takes a tick box to enable it. With Daemon, Daemon is available on multiple platforms as well. You can install Daemon on Windows, on Linux, on Mac OS X. Yep. And literally you can run it almost on anything to think of it. So you can run it on EC2, you can run it on ECS, Beanstalk.
Could you run it on premises as well?
Absolutely, you can run it on premises, you can run it on your own dev machine under your desk or on your lap. You can even run it on other clouds. It doesn't really matter. All you need is you need to have connectivity to X-Ray endpoint and AWS credentials to authenticate with. Right, awesome. So we've got another question here. I thought it might have been for me, but definitely not, because Peter Pippin asks, do you work out on the weekends because you look fit? It says Dean, but I don't know if I look fit. I have lost a few kilos, though. That's an awesome question. Yes, I do it only on weekends. It's this kind of workout. Thanks for that, Peter Pippin.
But I've actually got another question as well, and I guess this is a follow-on from the previous session when talking about women in IT. How did you get started in IT?
Always has been a passion of mine, but you know, quite often what it comes down to is opportunities and grabbing to those opportunities. When I was a teenager, I enrolled in a uni, wanted to be a pilot, but I realized that it was only for guys. Women were not accepted in that particular course that I wanted to do.
Why not?
That was a rule at the time. So, and I was really complaining to one of my friends who was going into a different uni studying computer science. Yeah. And he said, well, you know what, why don't you come and try that? And I did, and I loved it ever since.
Awesome.
So it's been opportunity that I grabbed and it worked out.
And I think this also flows on from that previous talk as well, is that it's important that we give equal opportunity everywhere to all sorts of people with different backgrounds, different gender, different race, and so forth. And it's really important, and it's the opportunity that we need to provide.
Yeah. Yep. And so what's your favourite programming language? What are you coding?
It's like asking me what's my favourite movie. I don't have one, and I truly believe in the right tool for the right, right fit,
job,
right job.
Yep.
I don't think it's a good idea just to generalize and say this is the best way to do about things. Like, it's like saying, this is my favorite character, this is my favorite movie, this is my favorite country.
Right.
I travel quite a lot, and I don't have a place that I didn't like so far.
Right. That's a very diplomatic answer. We don't have that much of a hostile crowd here. So, if you had a preference to code in a particular language, what do you find just the most enjoyable, the most flexible? I know right one for the right job, but I'm sure you can do many. But if you hear that, maybe it's PHP or Ruby.
Probably not PHP. Probably not PHP.
Okay, what language would you prefer not to code in? PHP.
Probably PHP.
Why?
That's a good question. You wanted me to say what my preferred or not preferred language is, but for me it's more irrational. That's a rational decision. Yes. It's more about what I feel like when I do it rather than anything else.
Right.
It's like liking countries or liking movies. Why do you like it? You can give 10 reasons, but you just like it.
Yeah, sure.
Yep.
So I'll go a little bit back talking about X-Ray just a little bit more. You mentioned that you can deploy this onto EC2, ECS, on premises.
Yes, you can.
Can we also, I'm a big fan of automation, pushing things through CloudFormation, pushing things through Elastic Beanstalk. Are there ways to actually automate the deployment and use of X-Ray within applications and across infrastructure? I think there's native support for Elastic Beanstalk.
Yes,
especially.
there is. So for Elastic Beanstalk, it is a native support. Again, it's another checkbox.
Yep.
But the whole AWS, suite of tools is designed to make it easy for everyone and automate things by automating things.
So is it only just elements of the application code that I can also push through X-Ray, or can I also monitor how long queries take to execute within databases?
Within databases, absolutely. You can trace calls to DynamoDB and MySQL, Postgres, just in examples. If you don't have, if for example you're using language that is not currently supported, there is always APIs that you can use. So like any other AWS service, there are APIs that you could use if for some reason you're using something that's not currently supported.
Awesome. I think we finally dropped a question. It's taken all day.
I blame it on the thrower. No, I'll take partial blame.
Yeah.
So we have a question from Paula Paula Love2 says, what's it like being a solution architect in AWS? That's a great question.
That's a loaded question, simply because do you really want to be here for the next 3 hours listening to me raving about it? It's awesome.
Funnily enough, you've done videos on this exact topic.
That's exactly right. Yeah, go and watch that. It's only 5 minutes. But to summarize it, for me, it's like getting a unicorn for Christmas. It's something that realistically does not exist, but you still hope that it does, and now you got it. Now I got it. I love my job, and I'm not ashamed of saying so publicly.
Do you think you'll stay a solutions architect forever, or for the rest of your career, or do you think that?
Well, my boss is just shouting to say yes. Very nice try, but it's an awesome job, and one of the things that I didn't realize until I joined is, it's going to sound cheesy, but it's the people that I work with. It's great. Every time I wake up in the morning, I think, should I work from home or should I work from the office? I love going to the office because I get to talk and work and collaborate with awesome people. And because I don't know everything, no one does, working together helps us achieve results that no one thought was possible.
Absolutely.
It's just amazing.
That's a fantastic answer to end on, Maria.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the time and insights into AWS X-Ray.
Not a problem.
We'd like to thank you viewers at home as well for joining us over the last 3 days. It's been an absolutely fantastic set of days. Of course, the fun doesn't stop here. Please don't forget that we run the AWS Dev Days in August in Brisbane and Melbourne, and we'll hopefully see you next time. Whilst these balls are coming up on stage, could I get the other two co-hosts to come up and we'll say our goodbyes.
Right in the eyes.
All right. Well, it's farewell here from AWS Sydney Summit, and we'll see you.
Just before we say farewell, I'd also like to say a very big thank you to our moderators who have helped out, and especially our team behind the scenes, behind the cameras.
Amazon live streaming team, you guys rock. Thank you for making this so much easier on us at the front.
And thanks for travelling all the way out from the US. We can't have done it without a collective support of a lot of people, and especially our marketing person, Kim.
Kim, thank you. Guys, thanks for tuning in.
Thank you. Good night, Australia.